Welcome back to the O Hockey Show. Now today, I'm going to be telling you exactly why the NHL's 2023 Winter Classic this year was an absolute mess. Because it was. I gotta tell you, I was so excited. Well, actually, I wasn't. I wanted to be excited for this thing. It's one of those things every year, the Winter Classic. It's one of those events in the NHL that I really care for. And I know I have a hockey channel, right? But to be honest, I don't watch all the games. I just don't have the time. I have better things to do being a young man myself that I have more care for than watching every single game that I possibly can. But the Winter Classic and the playoffs are the two things that I absolutely watch no matter what. Any outdoor game, I should say. And I was excited for this year's. I was like, it looks good. And then the jerseys they released, I'll talk about those later. I was excited for it, right? But then it came, and then I realized on the night, in the morning of, and when it started, that I just was not interested in it. So let's go over what happened. So first, the Bruins win 2-1. They continue their home streak of 19 wins and 3 overtime or shootout losses. So they have a 22-game home point streak. That is insane. I don't know if that's a record. If it isn't, it should be. And the Pittsburgh Penguins only get 1 goal, and they are still in a 5-game losing streak now. So, not very good game for them. They started off better, I will say. The Penguins, to me, did look like the better team to start early in the game, but the Bruins never really looked good to me either, except they still won. That's just what happens when you have a really good team go up against a team that's currently having their streaks of up and downs, and they're currently in one of their down streaks. But let's start off from the top here. Just to say, the game was a absolute. It was just bland. It was just bland. Okay. There was no intensity in the game to begin with, and I think that kind of stems from my next point. There was no hype for it. Is that they kind of advertised it. Not in, like, a rivalry matchup. This wasn't a, fight between two teams. This is, the epic outdoor setting between these two teams that have these veteran players that are for sure Hall of Famers. This wasn't set up to be, two big-town rivalries. There was no hype. There was no intensity. There's even a commercial right now. The commercial for it between Jeremy Swayman and Sidney Crosby just, being friends on the ice. There was no fight that was going to happen in this game. It was just, two teams having fun outdoors. And that's just not what you want in a hockey game. We try to pride ourselves being the sport where we fight, we get punched in the face, we get 5 stitches, and we get back on the ice in an hour, in 5 minutes. Right? That's not what this matchup was advertised as. This game was brought to us saying, hey, we're coming back to Fenway Park. It's one of the original places we started. It's Fenway. It's got the Green Monster. Oh, look, it's Crosby and Bergeron. Oh, they're playing hockey. The goalie saved the shot. How cute. There was nothing special about it. And that kind of leads me to the next point. There was nothing unique. Fenway, the Bruins, the Penguins, nothing about this matchup was unique in any way. There was no snow. So I have some examples here. So last year's Winter Classic, the Blues versus the Minnesota Wild. Well, it was the coldest one in history. What was it like? I forget if it was -4 or 4 degrees or it was whatever it was. People's beer was freezing. People were breathing so heavy. It was dark and cold. I can't even imagine how cold that was. I've never been anywhere near that cold. That was like a battle in it was like a battle. It was like they were in the coldness. You can feel those guys are dying of the cold out there. They could get, they probably can't get frostbite, but you know what I mean? It's oh my God, this is crazy. And the jerseys, perfectly clashed together, the blue and yellow versus the green and red. It all just went so good together, and the game itself was actually good. The two teams played good, and there was a high score. It was fun. Buffalo against the Penguins. Of course, it was the original Winter Classic, but not just that, but it snowed, and it was actually a good game. And then the Maple Leafs and the Red Wings, one of the first Winter Classics I ever watched. You know what was special about it? It snowed. It actually had 2 good teams that actually have a long ride. Well, I think they have a long rivalry. I feel like people don't, but I think they do, especially during that time. The Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, they even had the colors clashing of the blue and white versus the red and white, but they were like off-white, and the jerseys looked perfect. The blue versus the red. Like, it was amazing, and the game itself was good. It was just felt like a special game. This had nothing. There was nothing unique about this one, which brings me kind of to the next point, which is the perfect ice conditions. The entire week beforehand, I kept reading on the app, on the NHL app, they kept saying that this Winter Classic, the weather's going to be perfect. It's not going to be too cold for the ice to be brittle, and it won't be too warm. It's going to be just perfect. And they kept saying it during the game, too. They kept saying it. It was so funny. The perfect ice conditions. And immediately when the game started, the puck was dropped. In the Penguins' end, like 2 Bruins players or something, like, fell down. And then in the defensive zone, it was Lindholm, I think, grabbed the puck. And when he grabbed it, he reached out for it, right? Swooped it up, and then he, like, slipped. Like, I could tell, obviously, the ice was melting. And at the end of the first period, I remember Eddie saying something about the perfect conditions, and they went down to go talk to Charlie Coyle, I think, at the end of the first intermission, and he literally, the first thing that the lady said something to him, and he said, yeah, well, the ice conditions aren't exactly the best here in the town today. And I was like, oh my god, like, that was the funniest thing. It's like they kept trying to tell us that it was going to be perfect. Obviously, it's warm out, it's sunny, the fake snow, and he just threw all that under the bus. I thought that was hilarious. The perfect ice conditions just thrown out by Charlie Coyle. I mean, it was obvious. The guys kept falling all over the place. And I will say the one really good thing I can say about this Winter Classic is the jerseys looked amazing. The both teams being yellow and black and white as their actual colors I like the idea of them, like, putting those two together. But then the Penguins with the Pirates logo and having, I know it's not the base, but the original Pirates, I think, is what they were called, and the cream color, kind of like this color here with the black stripes. I didn't like the yellow helmet. I didn't like that. I think that should have been black, but at the same time, the yellow numbers, I think that needed the yellow helmet. The helmet was a bit off for me for the Penguins. And then the Bruins, perfect, just yellow and black. These jerseys was kind of reminded me of the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, where it looked like, sometimes I'll see the jersey and I'm like, man, they kind of just like, they don't really go together. But this year, they did a good job with making the jerseys look, they were made to go against each other. Like, these jerseys couldn't be worn against, like, the Golden Knights. These jerseys couldn't be worn against, like, Tampa Bay, let's just say. Like, the colors just wouldn't match. But having, like, the old school colors and the designs perfectly went together, and it just looked really good, including the pads. I gotta say, DeSmith's helmet, the white with the baseball look on it, looked really cool. And the Olmark's pads were phenomenal, including Olmark himself. But speaking of the goalies, I like Eddie Olczyk. Of all the commentators in hockey, I think he is one of my... He's not my favorite, but I do like him. He's up there. I don't really have a ranking, but he's up there, right? He's good. But how long he went on about Tristan Jarry's injury, it was all he could talk about. Now, I don't blame him. There wasn't a lot to talk about in this entire game, I will say. But the only thing he could talk about for like 7 minutes straight was, well, look at that back there. Oh, his body position. Oh, man. Like, who the heck cares, Eddie? We get it. He looks injured. And then finally, and I was debating myself, but it was like he was like some sort of like propagandist or something, the way he was talking about it. And then finally, Jarry was injured, and which is kind of sad. It's like this guy's big moment. I think he probably was the backup for Murray in the one where they played Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure, if I think the timelines are right there. So it's unfortunate that he starts the game and then immediately is like injured in the first minute of playing. So that is unfortunate for him. But DeSmith goes in and he looked really good. So goaltenders were good in this one, which kind of brings me to some of my last few points here. So the coverage, I will say immediately, me and my friend that was over here, me and him both at like the same time, the game started, I was like, something looks weird. It looks choppy. I don't know if it was my end, But I feel like always the outdoor games, something about like the bright sun of the outdoor setting kind of messes with the cameras that are probably made to be more indoors, but that wouldn't make sense either. I don't really know, but something about I don't know if it was my coverage or if it was the coverage in general. I haven't seen anyone else really complain about this, but for me, I thought the coverage looked kind of wonky, and they were. I gotta say, they also were like bad with the following the puck. Also, another thing that made this game really boring is that the stars didn't show up. None of the guys, none of the big names scored a goal or even got close to it. I would say Marchand was the best big name in the entire game that played well. I know Crosby, I know Malkin had the fake whatever, the no goal right at the end, but it wasn't a goal. Crosby had the one good shot right at the end of the first where it went off his old Mark's face. But other than that, like, I just didn't feel any of the big names like going out there and trying their best. And kind of to bring that same point up about earlier about the no intensity or hype, that whole beginning stuff between, I wanted this, if they built this as the rivalry, Crosby versus Bergeron, Malkin versus Marchand, and then you also have like maybe the newer guys like Gensel versus Pasternak, Letang, who wasn't there, but you can still build the Penguins, Letang versus McAvoy, and then you've got Jari versus Olmark, and you kind of got the two good goalies on each side. You got Olmark and Swayman, Jari and DeSmith. You kind of got that rivalry there too. So I thought that would have been an interesting idea, but no, it was just about like celebrating. Like there was no intensity. There was just nothing. It wasn't like any like who's better, Bergeron, the two-way forward, or Crosby, just the superstar. Like Sid the Kid versus the defensive legend. Like nothing. There was no anything between these two teams. They're just nothing. So I don't know. And then we get to why were these two teams picked? I get it. These two teams, Penguins and Bruins, probably make a lot of money. Boston, Fenway, a great place, right? What I think would have been a better rivalry, and I'm sure every single person agrees, and I'm sure a million other people have also said this as well, but I just gotta say, why didn't they just go with Montreal versus Boston? Because I think this would have, because just thinking about before this season started, I don't think a lot of people had the Penguins playing this interesting. The Bruins definitely not playing this good. So why would they even build these two teams originally? How about instead you make it the Bruins versus Montreal, where the Bruins are kind of on their last legs, they're on their last fight. They didn't know this season they were going to be this good, but here they are. The Bruins are the old age, slowly coming to a demise, and then you got the new Canadians, who, I mean, there's already the built-in Canada, the Montreal versus Boston rivalry, which everyone knows of. You already have that baked into it, but you also, that matchup has happened before, and also you can have it at Fenway where they've played before. So you could have made this matchup kind of like it wouldn't have been unique in that it was a new matchup, a new setting, new teams. It's the same teams in, I guess they didn't play in Fenway, I don't think, before, but you can have the same teams in a place where they already did play a Winter Classic and have it like be that rematch. But now it's a different story, because before it was the Bruins coming into light, which I guess they have been good for a while when they did play that matchup, but they weren't this good. And then the Canadians, who are kind of on their downward spiral, kind of in their current moment, then with PK Subban still on the team and Carey Price playing still at his peak. So you kind of had that together, and now I guess that was probably like, 6-7 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, maybe, doesn't matter. That was so many years ago. You can have them rehash that rivalry and, rehash it, bring back that in a new setting in Fenway Park, have those two teams play together, but now the story is Boston's coming to an end, and Montreal's got Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, all these young guys get on their lineup to now prompt them up. So I don't know why they didn't just make that the rivalry. Why were these two teams picked? Why wouldn't they have rather played Boston versus any other? Why the Penguins? It just doesn't make sense. They're not even in the same division. So it was just strange to me that these were the teams picked, because there's so many other ways that would have made more sense to me financially, made more sense too. I mean, Montreal is Montreal. It just writes itself, kind of. So I will say, though, I am excited for next year's. Seattle versus, I guess I need to flip these two around, but whatever. Seattle versus the Vegas Golden Knights in Seattle, I'm excited for. I don't think they're going to, I hope they make it more, because it's the new teams, right? They're the new future, but not really. But they are the newest teams, right? I kind of hope they have like a whole futuristic looking Winter Classic. I mean, for Seattle too, it's a tech city. So I hope that when they play there next season, instead of always going for the old look, which I do like the idea of it being old looking, but if you're going to play in Seattle with the two newest teams in the league, I hope they have like nice like futuristic looking jerseys, maybe something like how in the Nike jerseys for the juniors for the international games, how they've got like the sequences and the patterns in them, like the futuristic look. They could do something like that, some like how soccer, I don't know if they're called jerseys, but whatever, the shirts that they wear for soccer games, and they've got like the interesting like patterns in the jersey. I hope they do something like that, because they're like the future of the league, and especially in Seattle as well. So I think that would be a cool matchup. I think, yeah, it'll be good. I like that idea for that matchup. So I'm looking forward to next year's. This year's was just a mess, just nothing special. But that's all I really have to say. So please, if you like this video, pick up your free subscription by hitting that red subscribe button. If you like this video, leave a like, not a dislike, but go down to the comment section and tell me how stupid I am. Tell me how stupid I am for just thinking this way. This was the best Winter Classic ever. I'm just stupid for thinking this. These two teams are awful. All these games are terrible. I'm just an idiot and I'm wrong. Tell me how stupid I am down below. And until next time, I have been your... Oh, one thing I wanted to note is that I was going to hang up these jerseys for them. I was going to hang them up, but I didn't want to dignify the teams because their game was awful. So they put on a terrible show. I'm not going to show them off. But that's all I have to say. I'm Owen, your nicely and comfortably dressed host. Owen, too sweet, and I hope you have an amazing day. And ta-ta for now.